you.
Good morning. Welcome to the UU Church of the South Hills, also known as Sunnyhill. We are delighted that you could join us for this service. Our mission at Sunnyhill is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Roxy Mountjoy, and I serve as a worship associate for this congregation. If you are a newcomer or visitor to our congregation, please go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says New to Sunnyhill to receive more information about our congregation and to receive our weekly email newsletter. If you're joining us online today, please say hello or good morning in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. We'd like to hear from you and extend you a welcome as well. A gentle reminder, please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices so that we can enjoy the service uninterrupted by buzzing or ringing. Today's service is titled Risk-Taking, Failure, and Success. Any significant undertaking will almost certainly involve significant risk and the possibility of failure. Any venture that is not at least somewhat risky is probably not much of a venture. This sermon will explore risk, failure, and success in the context of our congregation's proposed capital campaign, as well as in our personal lives. Our opening words are from our Singing the Living Tradition hymnal. To laugh is to risk appearing the fool. To weep is to risk appearing sentimental. To reach out for another is to risk exposing our true self. To place our ideals, our dreams before the crowd is to risk loss. To love is to risk not being loved in return. To hope is to risk despair. To try is to risk failure. To live is to risk dying. May we all take these risks together, now and always. Please join me in saying the words to light our chalice. Deep calls unto deep, joy calls unto joy, light calls unto light. Let the kindling of this flame rekindle us, the inner light of love, of peace, of hope.
Good morning. Please rise in body or spirit to join in singing our opening hymn.
So fair to see, night veiled in mystery, glorious the earth and resplendent.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning. If there are any kiddos that want to come up for the Time for All Ages, now is your chance. All right, friends, good morning. This story is called The Journey of the Birds. Once upon a time, all the birds in the land decided that they needed a leader for their community. A leader, they thought, would make their community stronger. Representatives of all the bird species gathered to discuss finding a leader. A leader will tell us the right thing to do, said the robin. Our leader must be wise, said the owl. A leader must believe we are important, big and small, said the sparrow. I want the leader to be caring, said the dove. Yes, the leader helps us share and get along better, said the jay. The leader must make us feel safe, said the hawk. I know where you could find such a leader, said the hoopoe bird. It's the samorg, and it lives very far away from here. The birds were very excited. They said they were willing to go anywhere to find such a leader. It might be dangerous, said the hoopoe. A few of the birds looked troubled, but all the birds voted to go and find the samorg. The hoopoe took off, and all the birds followed. They flew at night, they flew in the sunshine, they flew for days and days. Some of the birds got tired and they left the group. Other birds were filled with doubt. How did they know the samorg really existed? Only the hoopoe had ever heard of this bird. Some of the doubters dropped out, but others kept flying. One valley was filled with fiery mountains. The birds were afraid. I'm too small to make it over that mountain, lamented the sparrow. No, keep flying. We can make it together. We will help you. And they did. The strong flyers helped the weaker flyers. The birds with good vision helped find food for the group. Along the journey, the birds learned how to better respect, share, and care for each other. It seemed that every bird had something special and unique to offer that made the journey easier. Finally, the hoopoe announced, "We are here." The other birds looked around in anticipation. "Where's the samorg? We don't see it," they cried. "Come, it's over here," said the hoopoe. The birds stood beside the hoopoe and realized they were on the edge of a lake. They looked in. What do you think they saw? Any ideas? Water? Yeah? What do you see when you look into water? Your reflection, that's right. That's what they saw, their own reflections. Then they understood. The samorg was not another bird. The samorg was all of them, and all of them were the samorg. They remembered that each of them had something good and strong and special inside of them, and that each bird had gifts to bring to the community. They were all that was needed to keep the community strong. They now knew that together they could do anything. And with that, we will head to our RE classes.
Where are our second grade teachers?
Downstairs.
As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go, as you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with
Baby's with me now, since I showed her how to lay her lily hand in mine. Who could ill agree? She's a sight to see and a treasure for the poor to find. If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me for to ease my pain? If you needed me, I would come to you. I would swim the sea for to ease your pain.
This is the time in our service when we share joys and sorrows that have been submitted by members of the congregation. Joys and sorrows may be submitted online from our website. There's also a link in our weekly email newsletter, The Beat. Or you may find these brightly colored cards in the foyer that you can fill out on your way in. After each joy or sorrow that I read, please respond by saying, "We hold you in our hearts." First is from Dennis Sweeney for Martha Sweeney. Dennis says, Martha would really like visitors. She is in rehabilitation at Genesis Rehabilitation on Highland Road near the Giant Eagle Market District. If you need more information about how to get in touch with Martha, please let me know and I can share her phone and other info with you. To Dennis and Martha, we hold you in our hearts. A sorrow from Carla Morado Cumming. Carla says, my son went on a business trip right before his birthday. This is his first birthday without his dad, who passed away in September 2023. To Carla, her son, and family, we hold you in our hearts. At this time, we invite anyone who feels moved to do so to come forward, light a candle, place it in the sand, and return to your seat as we sing Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the
Please join me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. It sometimes feels as if doors are closing all around us, as if rather than opening, everything is becoming more closed off from everything else. The way forward in our world seems cloudy and closed. Communication among various communities seems closed. Channels between warring factions seem clogged and closed. Our own path toward wisdom and understanding seems closed. There must be some path that leads to a great opening up, a path that leads toward open minds, open hearts, open doors, open arms. Let us pause for a moment of silence as we consider the closed places in our lives and our world and imagine them just starting to open. May our minds open that we might broaden our horizons. May our hearts open that we might love more abundantly. May doors open for all those who have been shut out. May arms open that all might be embraced in compassion. May all and all else open like a flower, like a newly greased hinge, like the yawn of this weary world awakening at last from dreamless slumber. Amen. This poem, written by David White, is entitled Loaves and Fishes. This is not the age of information. This is not the age of information. Forget the news and the radio and the blurred screen. This is the time of loaves and fishes. People are hungry, and one good word is bread for 1,000. This poem refers to a story which is told as it happens in all 4 of the Gospels in the Bible, about a time when a crowd of some 5,000 people gathered to hear Jesus speak. And when they became hungry, they were somehow fed and filled up with just 5 or perhaps 7 loaves of bread and 2 or perhaps 3 small fish. It varies just a little bit between the Gospels. Because it is mentioned in all 4 Gospels and because of some other details mentioned in the story, it is thought to be the most likely of Jesus' miracles to have occurred pretty much as written. But a certain number of commentators on this story have noted that rather than divine intervention, there may have been a different dynamic at work. They speculate that, similar to the famous stone soup story, the people who were gathered there on that day actually had carried some food with them, which at first they were reluctant to share with others. But when the loaves and fishes were distributed, each person added something that they had brought with them, and in the end it was enough to feed everyone with even more to spare. The miracle was the open-hearted sharing that took place and a fundamental change in attitude rather than the magical appearance of food from on high. David White's poem about the loaves and fishes reminded author Parker Palmer about an experience he had flying back to his home in Wisconsin after delivering a lecture in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. It was 6 a.m., an Air Canada flight. Shortly after boarding this plane headed for Wisconsin, Palmer and his fellow passengers were told that their departure was being delayed because the truck that brings the coffee to the airplanes had broken down. After a while, the pilot got on the intercom and said, "We're going to take off without the coffee. We want to get you to Detroit on time." Well, at that point, people started grumbling about incompetence and horrible customer service. I mean, not only did they have to do without coffee, but the pilot apparently did not even know that they were supposed to be going to Wisconsin rather than Detroit. Shortly after the plane was airborne, the lead flight attendant stood at the front of the plane with her microphone and said, "Good morning. We're flying to Minneapolis today at an altitude of 30,000 feet. That statement, of course, evoked more scorn from the passengers. But then the flight attendant went on, "Now that I have your attention, I know that you're upset about the coffee. Well, get over it. Start sharing stuff with your seatmates. That bag of 5 peanuts you got on your last flight and put in your pocket, tear it open and pass them around. Have gum or mints, share them. You can't read all the sections of your paper at once. Offer them to each other. Show off pictures of kids and grandkids that you have." And as she went on in this way, people began laughing and actually started doing what she asked them to do. People were sharing their snacks and their newspapers and their photos with other people on the plane. The tension in the plane dissolved, and something like joy took its place. Palmer was so impressed by what the flight attendant had done that later in the flight, he signaled her over to his seat and said, "What you did was really amazing. Where can I send a letter of commendation?" "Thank you," she said. "I'll get you a form." And then she leaned in close to him and whispered, "The loaves and fishes are not dead." The author asked himself, do miracles happen? And he answers, all the time. As White wrote in the poem, people are hungry, and one good word is bread for 1,000. For me, this story illustrates the difference between what has been called a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. A fixed mindset assumes that our character, intelligence, and creative ability are static givens which we can't change in any meaningful way, and success is the affirmation of that inherent intelligence, an assessment of how those givens measure up against an equally fixed standard. Striving for success and avoiding failure at all costs become a way of maintaining the sense of being smart or skilled. A growth mindset, on the other hand, thrives on challenge and sees failure not as evidence of unintelligence, but as a heartening springboard for growth and for stretching our existing abilities. Out of these two mindsets, which we manifest from a very early age, springs a great deal of our behavior, our relationship with success and failure in both professional and personal contexts, and ultimately, our capacity for happiness. The leading researcher in this area of fixed versus growth mindsets is Carol Dweck, a professor of psychology at Stanford University. She writes, "For 20 years, my research has shown that the view you adopt for yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life. Believing that your qualities are carved in stone, the fixed mindset creates an urgency to prove yourself over and over. If you have only a certain amount of intelligence, a certain personality, and a certain moral character, well, then you'd better prove that you have a healthy dose of them. It simply wouldn't do to look or feel deficient in these most basic characteristics." I've seen so many people, Dweck says, with this one consuming goal of proving themselves in the classroom, in their careers, and in their relationships. Every situation calls for a confirmation of their intelligence, personality, or character. Every situation is evaluated. Will I succeed or fail? Will I look smart or dumb? Will I be accepted or rejected? Will I feel like a winner or a loser? But, Dweck says, there's another mindset in which these traits are not simply a hand that you are dealt and have to live with, always trying to convince yourself and others that you have a royal flush when you're secretly worried it's a pair of tens. In this mindset, the hand you're dealt is just the starting point for development. This growth mindset is based on the belief that your basic qualities are things you can cultivate through your efforts. Although people may differ in every which way in their initial talents and aptitudes, interests, or temperaments, everyone can change and grow through application and experience. Dweck goes on to explain that this analysis of mindsets does not mean that anyone with proper motivation can do anything. It doesn't mean that anyone can become Beethoven or Einstein. But it does mean that it's possible to foresee what one's true potential is and what can be accomplished with years of passion, toil, and training. With individuals, the mindset that we work with seems to be in place from a very young age. I started life definitely with a fixed mindset. I don't know why I was that way, but that's certainly how I experienced my life early on. I experienced every failure or misstep as evidence that I wasn't really as smart as I pretended to be. So I avoided risk. I took the safe route most of the time, and to a great extent, that path worked for me up to a point. All through my growing up years and through high school, I was seemingly very successful academically and successful in other ways as well. But when I got to college, I found myself challenged academically and socially in ways that I had not been challenged before. But rather than taking these challenges as a means for growth, I saw each setback and failure, no matter how large or small it may have been, as a judgment on my character and who I was at the very deepest level. I ended up dropping out of college, at least in part, because of my inability to acknowledge that I had to fail in order to grow. For the young adult me, I was either exactly enough as I was, or I was a total and complete failure as a human being. When I returned to college after a break of 5 years, during which I learned a lot about myself and the world, I was able to change my mindset to be more growth-oriented. At the time that I dropped out, I felt like there was nothing good about me. I even tried to hide from my family that I was failing. The shame with which I burdened myself was so great and so heavy. But now looking back on that time of my life, I'm actually grateful for what happened. I would not be the person that I am today had I not had those experiences as a young adult. Painful as it was at the time, something big had to happen in order for me to change my outlook and my mindset. The reason I'm talking about fixed versus growth mindset is because I believe it's one of the most important ideas to understand in a congregational setting. We're living in an era when a lot of churches are failing and disappearing, including a lot of UU congregations. What I have found is that the churches that have a growth mindset, as this congregation has demonstrated, tend to be thriving, while those with a fixed mindset are dying. Growth in this context is not all about numbers of members, but rather is an approach to challenges. Every living human being and every human organization, certainly including churches, will fail at some things. Every person and every organization will inevitably experience setbacks. Those who do not experience setbacks at all are almost certainly dying because they are taking no risks. But a church with a growth mindset, a church that embraces challenge as a necessary part of learning and growing, is a church that has a good chance not only of surviving, but of thriving. That doesn't mean we have to like challenges. It doesn't mean that we have to have a Pollyanna-ish attitude toward everything that happens. Certainly there will be disappointment and heartbreak, but those things need not define us. It is our response to the setbacks and disappointments and heartbreaks that define us and determine whether we will thrive or wither away. We can either get stuck in the binary trap of success and failure, or we can be committed to learning from every experience we have without the baggage of judgment that will otherwise drag us down. I chose to speak on this particular subject today in part because of next week's congregational meeting, which will include a vote on whether or not to proceed with a capital campaign in some form. What we'll be voting on is not a finished plan. Until we have a better idea of how much money will be pledged, we can't possibly present anything like a finished plan. Rather, we will be voting on a direction. Voting to proceed with the capital campaign involves a fair amount of risk and uncertainty. We don't know if we will succeed. We don't know exactly what the finished product will look like. We don't know what the coming years hold for our world, let alone what they hold for our congregation. But if we vote to proceed, we will have a chance to lean into a growth mindset, to see the unknowns that are ahead of us not as barriers, but as opportunities for growth. In some ways, as we head into the unknowns of this election year and the unknowns that we face as a congregation, we are like those passengers on the airplane from Parker Palmer's story. We're getting ready for takeoff when we hear an announcement from the pilot that may frustrate or annoy us. But we have a choice about how to respond to the situation. We can take a fixed mindset approach and keep our heads down, refusing to participate in what's going on around us, and thereby upholstering our rut. Or we can start to move toward a growth mindset, a set of attitudes that sees the challenges ahead of us not as a sign of potential failure, but as a necessary part of real growth. Then we have a real chance of not just staying on course, but actually being better for having had this experience. When we are able to lean into difficult situations, not in a state of denial, but in a state of understanding and acceptance, when we're able to do this work, then we are succeeding as a congregation no matter what happens. I hope and pray that while we're stuck on the runway together, we will remember to laugh and to share what we have with one another and with this world, as this congregation always has done. That we'll share our pictures of children and grandchildren, our snacks, our newspapers, and our great love for this church and this world with an open hand and an open heart. The loaves and fishes are not dead. May it be so. Amen. The sound of children, by the way, is the sound of life. It is the sound of a congregation that is growing and thriving.
Amen.
If we did not have the sounds of children in our church, we would be dying.
And with that, please rise, embody your spirit, lift those voices to sing all together, Blue Boat Home.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the light of the heavens in a beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean
Our Share the Plate beneficiary for the month of April is Communitopia, a Pittsburgh-based organization whose mission is to provide transformative climate change education that develops today's climate leaders and advances equitable solutions. Communitopia envisions a world where solution-based climate change education has transformed thoughts and practices, resulting in empowered and healthy local communities. 50% of all our offerings in April will go to Communitopia, and the other 50% will help support Sunnyhill. If you'd like to make a gift via our online giving system, you can do so by going to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says Online Giving and then follow the instructions. Or you can give by text at 412-324-3130. All text gifts will go to our Share the Plate offering. We'll be passing our offering baskets for cash and checks in just a moment. If you're writing a check, please put Share the Plate in the memo line. Please join me in saying the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
These closing words were written by Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Go in peace.